used for challenging, as well as building some of our own tools for the future. Okay, so before I get into identifying root causes of anxiety and stress, one of the things that I really want to encourage you all to keep in mind is that anxiety and stress are normal human emotions, okay? So feeling anxious or stressed, it's a completely normal response to certain situations. And it's really important to remember that these are not emotions that we necessarily want to just get rid of. Right? Just because it feels a little bit uncomfortable sometimes doesn't mean we want to get rid of it. The reason for that is that these emotions are vital, right? This is our body's way of communicating with us about what we need in that moment, right? So these emotions give us really important information about what we might need to do to take care of ourselves. Right? These are not feelings that we should feel ashamed of. It's not like a signal that we're weak or, if we're feeling anxious, that's not any kind of signal that we're not prepared enough for the challenges that we're facing. The thing that I want you to keep in mind is that these emotions are really just information that you can use to make more thoughtful or strategic choices about what you might need in the moment. So if we get into, first of all, what are stress and anxiety, right? Stressors are difficult situations. They trigger our bodies to respond in certain ways, right? So let's say maybe there's a huge paper that is due, or a bear is chasing me, right? From an evolutionary perspective, a bear is chasing me. The bear is the paper. And stress and anxiety are both physiological and psychological responses to these difficult situations. So we might lose sleep. We might run away from the bear, right? We might avoid. And basically, humans developed these stress, fight, or flight responses as a survival mechanism to be able to respond to perceived dangers. And so that's why I was saying, like, hey, these emotions, even though they're uncomfortable, they give you information. It's your body's way of telling you that something's not quite right. The thing is that in today's world, we are not usually running away from a bear, but our body can still react as if we are. So for stress, our stress is usually going to come down or go away once a specific situation is resolved, whereas symptoms of anxiety tend to be more persistent, right? Some stress, some amount of anxiety can actually improve our performance. It can help motivate us. But too much stress and anxiety really impair performance, and it can cause a lot of distress for us. So I also want to talk briefly about the root causes for stress and anxiety. There are many. There's many more than what I can list for you today, but here's just like a few of my personal favorites, right? The pressure to succeed, right? For me, as a brown, queer identified woman, right? The pressure to be successful in a society and in a field of people that don't always look like me or act like me. I feel a lot of pressure. Also culturally, I'm half Indian, and there's a lot of pressure to succeed culturally that I personally experience. Could be life changes, right? One of the major things that I see with my college students is there's just this kind of fear of the unknown, right? We know that the career and the workforce and adulthood is all out there. Um, but for some of us, not all of us in the room probably, but for some of us, college was kind of the first time being away from home. And then there's going to be this whole other way of being an adult that happens after college is over. And that can be very scary, right? There's all kinds of life changes that can be stressful, though, right? Having children, getting married, getting divorced, right? Buying a house for the first time. There's all kinds of things, that even great things, that can be very stressful. Perfectionism. relatable content for me again, right? So the idea that we have to always be working up to this extremely high bar. And then cognitive distortions, right? That's going to be patterns of thinking that kind of contribute to our stress and anxiety that don't really match up with reality. And so what I want to highlight here, because we have such a short time together today, is that spending some amount of time reflecting on the things that tend to be at the root of your stress can be very helpful, because when we're choosing a solution, right, we want to make sure that the solution we pick matches and makes sense for the problem, right? And so identifying some of your own root causes for stress and anxiety might actually change your thinking about what coping strategies and tools are going to be most effective for you. So I now just want to talk briefly about the importance of being able to recognize the impact of stress both on your mind and body. So how do these things feel? Cody, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. Cody's always on it. So it might be very physical, right? Headaches, body aches, tummy aches, acne, breakouts, sleeping a lot, not sleeping enough. It could be cognitive, right? Having trouble focusing, just ruminating, getting stuck on a thought, and just not kind of being able to let it go. And it can also be emotional, right? So I might be irritable, I might be edgy, I might feel overwhelmed, I might be crying. Sometimes I kind of detach and go numb, right? So sometimes it's big emotions, and sometimes it's kind of like closing down emotions when we feel so overwhelmed. And so again, what this is our bodies and minds giving us signals to let us know that we're stressed. And before you even realize, oh man, I'm really stressed out, you might notice some of those symptoms or feelings. And that's just another good piece of information to help indicate how are you feeling and what might you need to do to cope. All right, so now getting into coping strategies. Before I get into specific skills, I want to ask you again, just consider in your mind, how intentional are you about choosing your coping skills right now? So when things get hard, how thoughtful are you about choosing how you're going to cope or react in that situation? The reason that I wanted to start there is because most of the skills for emotional health, most coping skills, they're not rocket science. And I know that this is like a really important group of students that I'm speaking to, right? You are student leaders. These are not going to, the skills that I'm going to teach you are not going to blow your mind, right? I totally wish that I could do that for you today. I don't think I can, because the reality is a lot of these things are pretty simple. Um, because of that, because of the simplicity of it, when we're feeling okay, when we're feeling regulated, sometimes folks will be a little bit dismissive of these skills because they'll sort of think like, well, if it was that easy, I'd be doing it already. Or, come on, Carla, like I've heard that a million times. But the thing I want you to remember is that the hard part about using these skills is actually remembering to use them and using them correctly when it really matters. So when we're all like calm and regulated, we're feeling good, we've had enough to eat, we've had enough sleep, nothing's really stressing us out. Yeah, it's really easy to kind of remember how to self-soothe or how to maybe reframe a thought into something that's more realistic. When we're emotional, it is much harder to think clearly and strategically. Even very simple tasks can feel overwhelming when we're emotionally dysregulated. And that's because we're thinking from our amygdalas, right? We want to sort of get out of the emotional reactivity and get ourselves back into the prefrontal cortex, right? Which is where we can sort of activate our logic and our reasoning. And so part of this is really that it takes a lot of practice to be able to step back in the moment recognize, woof, I'm dysregulated right now. And I really need to take a moment to just bring that intensity down before I try to solve this problem, right? And so that's why we have this slide around let's first, before we even learn the skills, let's first determine which skills to use based on how we're feeling. And so the way I like to teach this is that you're either in a crisis or you're not in a crisis. And crisis levels can be good or bad, right? The first thing to think about is let's have our emotions on a scale. Could be a thermometer, could just be 0 to 100 scale, whatever you prefer. 0 is no emotions at all, and 100 is most possible intense emotions. And that's going to help you gauge where are you emotionally at any given point. And again, keep in mind, emotions can be positive or negative, right? So I could be at a 90 because I'm really nervous about giving this talk right now. I don't feel nervous at a 90. I could be at a 90 for joy about being here with you today giving this talk, right? In general, regardless of whether it's a happy feeling or an uncomfortable feeling, a crisis level would be when you're at a 65 or above on that scale. That doesn't mean that anything's wrong. It just means that your emotions are intense enough that they might actually interfere with some decision making in the moment. So if you're ever thinking like I'm at a 65 or I'm above a 65, you're going to use crisis survival skills first. And basically, crisis survival skills are any skills, the ones that I'll teach you today, but also other ones that you might already know and be using. That the goal of that coping skill is to just bring the intensity of your emotional state down, not necessarily to think through the problem or come up with solutions or whatever. It's just bring the intensity down so that I can then take my next step from a more grounded place. So we'll start with some crisis survival skills, and then I'm going to talk about a skill called cognitive reframing that I really like. It's very widely applicable to a lot of different kinds of life challenges. Okay, so there are so many different crisis survival skills that you can use. This particular set of skills, the acronym is TIP, temperature, intense exercise, paced breathing, and progressive muscle relaxation. That's what I want to show today. One of the things that can be very distressing for some people are those physical sensations that come along with intense emotions, like your heart is just like racing, right? Your palms are sweating. And so I really love these skills because they help change the physical reaction to the emotion, which is a little bit different than some of the other sort of more, like mindfulness or other types of calming skills that might already be in your toolbox. So the T in TIP stands for temperature. And this is a cool one, although I do want to note, do not do this if you have a history of heart problems, any kind of cardiac issue. So when we activate the dive reflex, which is a reflex that all mammals have when we dive into cold water, our heart rate just goes way down, slows everything down. And so you can actually activate the dive reflex by dunking your face in a bowl of ice water. Now, I know this is like you got to be really freaking out to like get the bowl out and put the water in it and put the ice in it. You dunk your face in it. Excuse me. And of course, you don't want to like force yourself to stay underwater for too long, right? You can come up for air and then face dive again. Especially getting that ice water around these sinus cavities right here is going to really activate that dive reflex. And what you'll find is that, yeah, this is not going to solve the problem of the like breakup that you just went through. But if you're a person who has a lot of those big physical reactions to anxiety, it's going to help really slow your body down really quickly. An alternative to this, what we do in the therapy office is we keep ice packs in the freezer. And so sometimes if someone's feeling really dysregulated, we grab an ice pack and they'll kind of hold it right here on their forehead or around their eyes. And it can really, really calm you down without having to, really access any kind of cognitive skills. The next one is intense exercise. And I think we all know exercise is a great stress reliever. It's a great way to let out energy or anxiety. And especially when your emotions are feeling really intense, getting in some exercise that is really intense enough that it gets your heart rate up a little bit for like at least 15 to 20 minutes. That is going to release endorphins, which are neurochemicals that help the body reduce stress and pain, right? So there's using a regular exercise routine as a way of managing stress on a daily basis. Regular exercise also impacts the level of serotonin in your brain, which can boost your mood, right? It sort of has an antidepressant effect. But we can also use intense exercise in the moment when we're really stressed out as a way of physically letting out some of that intensity so that we don't let it out in some other way, like, punching a hole in a wall. That's not going to be very effective for us. Then we have the P's in tip. So the first P is paced breathing. And this works because when you inhale, your heart rate speeds up slightly. And when you exhale, it actually slows down slightly. And so what you're doing is kind of activating heart rate variability, which is associated with stress reduction. So the focus on your breath gives you something to focus on, right? So you're focusing your mind on your breath and not on the stressor. And then increasing that variability of heart rate is associated with less stress, as well as improved health and cognition. So what you're going to do with this skill is you're just going to focus on your breath and you're going to pace your breathing such that your inhale is longer than your exhale. So whatever works for your lungs. In my former life, I was an opera singer. So I have very strong lungs. And so I can inhale for 8 and exhale for 12. Most people can't do that. But so you could inhale for 4 counts and then exhale for 6 counts. And all you're doing here is just make sure that the exhale is longer than the inhale, right? So you could do this literally in a classroom as your professor is passing out midterms. You could be doing this to downregulate your stress. No one would know you were doing it. The final P is for progressive muscle relaxation. And this is a simple exercise where you progressively tense and relax the muscles in your body. Typically, we start at the feet, right? So you could do this sitting in a chair, you could do it lying down, whatever's comfortable for you. You tense up those feet. 5 seconds, you hold them tense. And then you release for 5 seconds. And then you move up to your calves and you tense those calves for 5 seconds. And then you release them for 5 seconds. And you keep working your way up to the top of your body. And then if you like, you can go back down to the bottom again. And this exercise is wonderful for releasing. I think sometimes we don't recognize all the places in our body where we're holding tension. So it can be really wonderful for releasing tension. It's also really great if you're a person like me who has kind of a hard time turning off your mind at night to be able to settle down and fall asleep. This is a really great one because it's very physically relaxing, but it also, again, it's giving your mind something just very benign to focus on so that you're not thinking about those worry thoughts. And for progressive muscle relaxation, as well as paced breathing, there's lots of free guided practices out there. You can look on YouTube, you can, look on Psychology Today. There's plenty of resources out there if you just want to put in your earbuds and tune out and have somebody guide you through it. I'm so sorry for the coughing. I'm also getting over a cold right now. Okay, so let's move into cognitive restructuring. Once you're not in a crisis, once you've down regulated the intensity a little bit, now we have some more emotional and intellectual bandwidth to use other types of skills, right? This is now when we're ready to start thinking about, okay, how do I actually solve this problem? Or how do I want to respond to that very snarky email that this person sent me, right? Or how am I going to handle this? And so there's, again, lots of different skills you could use here. The one I want to review with you today is called cognitive restructuring. And it's a great way of combating thoughts that come up that are really not helping you. Okay. So this is how it works. There's 6 basic steps. The first thing I want you to do is identify the event. What happened that set off your anxiety or fear or sadness or whatever? Next, we're going to rate the emotion, that same 0 to 100 scale, right? I'm anxious at a 75, whatever. I'm anxious at a 40. The next step is to actually write out, or I do this in my head. I'm a therapist. I've been doing it for years and years. If you're new to this skill, I do really encourage you to just write it down, write it, in a note in your phone or something, just to make sure you're really going through the steps. But sort of get out on paper or into a note, what are the unhelpful thoughts that are fueling those emotions, right? So, for example, I'm never going to get into graduate school. I'm never going to pass this class. I'll never find anyone else that I love as much as this person who just stomped all over my heart. Okay. And now here's where the real work comes in. So the next step is we've got to identify a more helpful, reasonable, or adaptive thought. It has to be realistic, right? You can't just be, Carla, you're going to be fine. It's going to be fine. You'll get through it. That's not going to help. Okay. The trick is you've got to be able to start to see, where is your unhelpful thought not actually very reflective of reality, and replace that thought with something that is, yes, more helpful to you, but also more aligned with reality. So, for example, if you have a breakup and you think, I'll never find love again, right? That is probably not reflective of reality. I might never be with this person again, but the reality is, as painful as this is right now in this moment, chances are eventually I'm going to heal, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to meet someone new, right? Hopefully someone better. And then once you have those more helpful thoughts in mind, I want you to bring your attention back to how you're feeling emotionally and re-rate the intensity of your emotion again. And so sometimes you were at a 75 when you started and you're at a 40 when you stop. So the goal here is not necessarily to get rid of the emotion, but what you will find is that typically there is this connection between your emotional intensity and the helpfulness of your thoughts, right? So as you actually think through how you're reacting to and perceiving a situation, and you start to shift those thoughts towards something that's a little bit more realistic, the emotions are going to come down a little bit. It's not, if something is really sad, changing your thoughts about it is not going to erase sadness. But what this can do is take away all that extra intensity that we sort of put on ourselves by going down these emotional rabbit holes of like, I'll never be happy again. I'll never be able to be successful. These kinds of things that like, it sort of makes the intensity worse than it really needs to be. So let's look at an example just to illustrate how it works. So let's say this is totally something that probably happened to me in college, and this is why I put it on the slide. I just realized I just turned in my project. I handed it in yesterday and I realized that I didn't follow the instructions, right? I know Carla never follows the instructions. I didn't follow the instructions. I made a major mistake, but I already handed it in. I'm feeling anxiety and because I'm like a chronic perfectionist, Carla would also be feeling shame, right? Because I have this unrealistic idea that I'm supposed to be perfect. And so let's say that I'm at an 85 for anxiety and maybe I'm a 70 at shame. And what I really would have been telling myself is that I'm stupid and I'm going to fail the class and I probably won't get into grad school. And what I've learned over the years from actually making these mistakes is that I really have to remind myself, Carla, you can be smart and make mistakes. Even smart people make mistakes, right? And this is not necessarily an unsolvable problem, right? I can contact my professor to see if I can change it, right? Because I did the correct work. I just handed it in some wonky way or whatever. And so then I tune back in and I'm still a little anxious. I'm still a little ashamed. I'm not proud of myself because I wish I hadn't made that mistake. That was pretty avoidable if I just would have followed the instructions. But I'm feeling much more relaxed and I'm feeling much more grounded in, okay, yes, I made a mistake. Is it the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world. So we are right about at 1/2 past, and I wanted to make sure that we have time to answer any questions that you might have before I hand the mic over to my colleague, Cody.
Hi, sorry, we're having a mic issue, so we're gonna try to fix that. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. A lot of us here are student leaders working with our student senates back on campus. Do you have any thoughts or ideas on how we can best incorporate this information on our campuses?
Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, can I repeat back just to make sure that I heard it? So we have a lot of student leaders as well as staff in the room. And do I have any thoughts about how we could incorporate this information on campus?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, definitely. So I actually used to teach a credit bearing class at Pitt where I would teach these skills. And for whatever reason, I had a lot of RAs in my class. And my RAs would take these skills and build boards on their floors, teaching sort of wellness skills, especially during stressful points in the semester. So, like, one of the reasons I was so happy to be invited to give this talk at this point in the year is because I know we're kind of on midterms already. We're getting there. So I think using those natural opportunities that you have, however you're engaging with students. So whether you have the opportunity to talk to students in small groups, in advising appointments, if you're a student leader and like you're chairing a meeting, for example, could we start the meeting with 2 minutes of paced breathing? Right? What are little quick and easy ways that we as leaders on our campus who have a little bit of airtime to do 5 minutes of something that might help make things just a little bit easier for the people around us? How can we take just a little piece of that airtime and teach a skill or lead a practice that works for us with the group so that there's just this like little micro lesson that gets woven in, or there's just this sort of setting of a tone that as part of this organization that I'm leading, we prioritize the well-being of all of our members.
No, okay. Is that better? Okay. Are there any other questions?
Perfect. Just want to say thank you for coming with today, some insightful stuff. And I have a question that I've been thinking of for a while. But how do you deal with burnout, and how do you suggest others to deal with burnout?
Yeah, burnout is really hard. So ideally, we are paying attention to those like yellow flags that pop up along the way so that we don't get burned out. Once we do get burned out, my favorite thing to do, honestly, is to exercise my no. So when I'm feeling burned out, what that means is that if I do not prioritize my well-being right now in a pretty assertive way, I'm not going to be able to keep going. And that's not going to be good for me, but it's also not going to be good for all the people who are counting on me, right? As a leader. And so what it means is that I might just take time off. It means I might accept that I can't do something perfectly and I just have to do good enough, right? So sometimes, I mean, as a chronic perfectionist, I cannot believe this is coming out of my mouth, but like professionally, could I do a B- on something and be okay with it so that I could actually get a full night's sleep instead of working half the night and digging that burnout hole even deeper for myself. And it also means saying no. So being really aware of what new requests are coming in and being really willing to say, I would love to help you with this. I really would. And I just am at my limit right now and I can't. It unfortunately does also mean sometimes we have to let things go. Um, and so this happened for me. So I had switched jobs. And so I was in a new job in a new industry. Was also chairing the international conference for this scientific society that I'm on the board of. And I had also founded a food pantry in my local community. And so the chairing the conference and the food pantry are both, it's volunteer work, but really important, meaningful leadership positions for me. And what I found is that while I was putting on that conference, it was just too much for me to be involved with the food pantry as well. I knew that if I stepped away from the conference, there would not be someone who could take my place. It was too late for that. But for the food pantry, I had many volunteers who were very excited about doing that community work. And so, as much as it was difficult for me to step away from this thing that I founded, right, and I felt really passionate about, making sure that the people in my neighborhood have food to eat, I knew that that organization would be okay if I stepped away. And so when I was really getting burned out, I looked at what are all the things that are on my plate? And is there anything, even if I hate that I have to step away from it for a little while, what can I step away from knowing that the organization is going to be okay because there's somebody else who can do that job?
Thank you. We would have time for one more question if there is one. Anybody? Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Hi, I am just wondering if there's access to these slides afterwards.
Absolutely.
Yes, and we're also recording and we'll be sending this out And then we are gonna move on to Cody Moyer, who's gonna do a run through of Mantra Health and how you can access it as students. If additional questions come to your brain today that you would like to ask Dr. Chugani or about Mantra Health at all, you can use these forms right here that are gonna be on the front registration table. And then this lovely box right here, you just put them in there before you go. Answers will be provided and they'll be emailed out to everyone in attendance today. So now I'm gonna hand it over to Andrea. You probably have it set up, so I'm just handing it over to Cody. For the run through.
Cool. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, first off, thank you, Carla. Amazing as always. And thank all of you for taking the time to be here and hanging out with us this morning. As Carla mentioned, very similar to me, this is my absolute favorite part about my position. About 10 years ago, showing my age here, I was in the same shoes as all of you. I was a student leader on campus, and it had a profound impact on myself personally and professionally. From there, I pursued a career in student affairs and higher education, where I worked on campus professionally for about 10 years. And a couple years ago, I joined Mantra, and I'm able to help out students in a little bit of a different capacity. So thank you all so much for what you are doing. Students truly do look up to you. You are a huge voice on campus, and I hope that you'll be able to share some of the amazing resources that you have through our new partnership together that I'm going to tell you a little bit about. So let me start sharing my screen again and show you what we got going on here. And I hope that you can see my screen okay here. Recently, the entire Minnesota state system partnered with us, Mantra Health, to give you a full whole campus care program. Ultimately, this is pretty much a one-stop shop for any mental health resources that you may need on campus, and you'll be accessing this through what we call the Care Hub. And I'm going to be showing you a demo of this today and how to use it. Once again, this is an incredible resource. This is something that I wish I had on campus. So when I was talking to students, if they were ever presenting concerns, it's just something I could tell them to sign up for that's completely free. And that's just an amazingly useful tool. What we'll be looking at today when we review the platform is, once you're in here, you have the opportunity to freely navigate self-care modules. These were all developed by Dr. Carla, who we were just listening to, who just presented to us. These are her babies. They're incredible, really valuable content. They're short, sweet, and just immensely valuable. There's also a service within the Care Hub that we call Connect Now. And this is for on-demand emotional support via video or phone. So if you just got that bad test grade back, or maybe you're going through a breakup and you might not need full-on therapy, but you just want to talk to somebody in the moment, this allows you to connect with somebody via video in 10 minutes or less, usually much quicker than that, or via phone at any time. So for video calls, it's between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. every day. The phone line is available 24/7, so you can just call and chat with somebody. This refer a friend feature is huge for all of you as student leaders on campus. I know that you're frequently talking to students, offering guidance, and really being a peer support to them. And you can refer students directly through the Care Hub so they can get access. One of the coolest parts about this entire program is you don't have to figure this out all on your own. When you onboard and you sign up for an account, we give you the opportunity to take a very quick assessment. It takes 5 to 10 minutes, and you will get a clinically backed recommendation on a level of care that works best for you. So when you're going through your onboarding, you take 5 to 10 minutes, answer a questionnaire. From there, you might be recommended to participate in therapy, which you can schedule an appointment right away. You might be recommended to participate in coaching and work one-on-one with a professional coach to just hold you accountable, develop goals, and really help you get where you need to be. And it will also offer self-care modules. If you are recommended to connect with therapy, you'll do everything all in one platform. And this platform has all of your campus and crisis resources. So for the past several months, I've been working with your leadership teams across the state system to develop all of this. So when you log in, you will see the campus resources specific to your institution. Before showing you all of this in action, I wanted to also just say that you have a support team throughout your process with Mantra. So if anything ever comes up during your experience and you need assistance, you can reach out to what we call our Care Navigator team. And they are there, they underpin your experience. So if you have a question, if you need a change, you can reach out to them. They'll engage you if you haven't completed your appointments, making sure that you're staying on track. If you ever need a referral to outside care, if you're interested in a different level of care, they can assist you with that. They'll also support you during crises and emergencies and continuity of care. So you can always call them at the number on the screen, email at hi@montrahealth.com, and there's also a chat function right in the patient portal where you can get connected at any time. The biggest takeaway here is that you are not alone, and if you ever need help, we encourage you to reach out. So I'm going to stop sharing really quickly just to bring up my demo environment for you. And what we're going to do is actually log in and show you what it's like to create an account here with us here at Mantra, and you'll be all set to rock and roll. In your packets that you have today, in your folder, there should be a sheet in there that has a bunch of links and corresponding campuses. So it will say like Inver Hills, Ridgewater, Mankato, and there's a separate Mantra link for each campus. What you'll do is find the link for your campus. You can go directly to that link and you can sign up for an account. The other thing that I'll mention here is this is probably the last time in all of your lives that you will have access to free mental health care and free therapy. So take advantage of this resource. Even if it's not top of mind for you, take advantage of it, get that recommendation, and see where you go with it. So I'll start sharing my screen again. So after you find the link for your campus, you will find a screen that looks similar to this. It'll say school-sponsored mental health care, and it'll ask you to log in. If you haven't had an account yet, you'll just click sign up here, and you'll enter your email address. I'm just going to put in a fake one really quickly here. After you enter your email address, it is going to bring you to your single sign-on page. So this is totally normal. You'll enter your email address, and yours will be .my.ridgewater.edu or myriverland.edu, whatever that may be. So you will just enter that here. And then on your next screen, when it brings you to your single sign-on page, this is where you will most likely see your Minnesota State credentials. That is perfectly fine. It is just signing you on through that single sign-on process. So once you do that, you're going to get to this screen that says, welcome to the Mantra Care Hub. If you have a preferred name, you can enter that in here. But ultimately, we just want to know what we should call you. You'll enter your date of birth here. I still wish I was 21, so I will be 21 for the day here. We'll ask you to agree to a consent form, and then we'll click continue. And from here, you can enter your phone number for real-time updates. I would encourage you to do this just to get any appointment reminders and things like that. You can skip this if you would like to do so. And then you're just going to get an orientation to the Mantra Care Hub. So once again, this is a one-stop shop for all your mental health resource needs. So we will just click get started here. It'll tell you that you can connect with campus resources specific to your campus. The self-care modules that we'll take a look at that were all developed by Dr. Chugani. In the moment support, like I spoke about, if you just want to talk to somebody in the moment, you have the ability to do that. And one-to-one care, whether it's through therapy or coaching. And this is one of the most important screens. So this is where you can take that assessment that will give you that recommendation on what level of care meets your needs the best. So this takes about 5 minutes to complete. It's just going to ask you some questions about where you're at right now. And then from here, they will give you a recommendation on whether it's therapy or coaching or self-care modules. And then you can proceed with whatever care recommendation that you were given. So I would recommend you take this assessment right away. You can skip this and go directly to the dashboard. And you'll see that when we come directly to the dashboard here, we are in. If we were to have got connected to therapy, we would have a therapy tile right here, but instead we didn't take the level of care assessment. This will also route you back to that assessment. So if you didn't take it when you first logged in, maybe you just wanted to explore the self-care content. And then after you were exploring a little bit, you're thinking maybe coaching or therapy would benefit me. You can always come in at a later date and take that assessment to get that recommendation. And I'm going to show you what that looks like if you get connected to therapy. But for a student just logging in, you'll see here under Connect Now, this is where you can get connected via video within 10 minutes or less, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Central Time, or you can get connected 24/7. And there is a specific phone line for each campus that you can call right here. On your campus resources is where all of your campus specific resources will live. So you will see everything applicable to your campus. If you're in crisis resources will live right here. We would encourage you to get connected via this pathway. Right here under refer a friend is where you can refer one of your friends. You might be a student leader and you're meeting with first year students and you want to get all of those students into Mantra. That would be an awesome thing to do. Collect their email addresses, refer them. Self-care modules, you can browse skills by clicking here, or you can scroll down here. These are all those self-care modules. We can also find them on the left right here. And this is really, really cool because when you browse these skills, just like everything within our platform, we don't want you to feel like this is all on you to take on your own. And what you can do is you can get a personalized skills pathway. So there's a lot of cool stuff here about focusing your mind, stop freaking out, mastering your relationships. What you can do here is take a really brief assessment, just answer a couple questions about where you're at right now, and we will actually recommend a pathway that works best for you. If you are the type of person that just wants to explore and do it all, you are more than welcome to do that. So let's say that I'm going through something right now and I'm can't get focused. I have all these distractions going on and I can't stay in tune with my coursework. Maybe this dealing with distractions module could be really helpful for me. All I would do is click into here. And from here, I can explore the content that's available to me, and you'll see that it's broken down into all these modules. And one other thing that we encourage you to do as you're going through these is to reflect on your experience, and you can keep notes about your progress through here. If we go back to the homepage, the last thing that you'll see here is you also have the ability to connect to an online peer support community. This is completely anonymous, so you're not entering any of your personal information. But if you just want to create a post about something that you're dealing with and hear what others are doing in those situations, you can absolutely do that all through our anonymous peer-to-peer support community through Together All, which is always backed by professional clinicians as well. So that is getting connected to the Mantra Care Hub. The last thing I want to show you is what it looks like for a student that took this care recommendation and got connected to therapy. So what we will do here is switch gears just a little bit. I'll go back to this screen and I will change to Amanda really quickly. And this is what is showing, this is what you will see if you got connected to therapy via that care assessment. So we just spoke about taking that care assessment and getting a recommendation. In the case of this student, they took that assessment and got recommended therapy. So instead of seeing that get connected, they see this therapy pathway now. So once Amanda gets connected to therapy, what she can do is click on Mantra Therapy right here, and it will bring her to this screen. So from this screen, Amanda can fill out her brief medical history, verify their identity through a selfie or a picture of their photo ID, And then they have the opportunity, you will have the opportunity as the student to schedule your initial therapy consultation. This is very rare and something that pretty much only we offer is you get to pick your provider, you get to pick the time that you're meeting, and all of this is at no cost to you. So from there, we can view the providers that are available. In Minnesota right now, we have a ton of providers. So if you want to sort these providers based on gender or any of these race and ethnicity, sexuality, any of these demographics, you can sort to find a therapist that will work right for you. After finding one that meets your needs, all you would do is click on the intake time that works best for you. If you want to view all of the availability that a certain provider has, you can click on view all availability and you choose your intake time. By clicking on view all availability, you can also learn a little bit more about a provider. So if the picture isn't enough, which oftentimes it isn't, and that's totally understandable, you can learn a little bit more about each provider, see some of their practice areas, to find out which one will work best for you and schedule that initial therapy appointment. And once again, this all takes place right within the Mantra Hub. So summarizing everything that we just went over in the past 10 minutes, you will find the link that corresponds with your campus. You should have received a page like this. So you'll find your campus, find that link. You will go to that campus, that web page, enter your university email address. From there, you will sign on through single sign-on. You can take that level of care assessment. You'll get a recommendation for clinical care or coaching. And from there, you have access to all of these resources at your fingertips. Once again, this is something that every student at the Minnesota State system has access to, so we encourage you to sign up. I think everybody should pull out their phones right now, make an account, log in. It cannot hurt at the end of the day. We are expecting to see hundreds and hundreds of signups, and we are ready to support you. So please get connected today and spread the word. The students on each of these campuses listens to you. Please spread the word and get them connected to this amazing, valuable resource.